Longhorn fans, Sooner Nation, welcome to episode 62 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, have you seen the new Dr. Pepper commercial, the trailer for it, for college football?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's fantastic. They have captured everything that could possibly be a storyline going into college football season. Conference realignment was captured perfectly, but the line of the day that forced my brother to send me this link so that I could watch it was there's a line in there that says every fan feels like they have to have a podcast for their school. That's us.
That's
We're
us.
that guys.
That is why we're here. Yes.
The Dr. Pepper guys have nailed it. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that we are living up to that. What are you doing with your microphone? You're killing me.
Hey, man, I got to make sure that people can hear me. As much as you talk.
They can hear you mess with your microphone. I'll tell you that.
No, as much as you talk, I got to make sure I get in here somehow.
That sounds better. That does sound better. It's silky. That's a silky sound. Real quick. This is we're going to put out 2 podcasts tonight. And so this is the first one we're recording. So if I refer to it as the first one, that's why. But they're 2 separate podcasts. We're going to do one focused. This episode focused solely on Oklahoma and their season preview. The next one we record will be the Texas preview. We're going to release them at the same time. Before we get into that, though, it has to be talked about. Commissioner Yormark's remarks to the Texas Tech luncheon that he was at, where he calls out Texas and Oklahoma, says he's actively going to be rooting for Texas Tech to beat Texas, and basically just sounding like the most, I don't know, jilted ex-girlfriend in the history of the world. I mean, what does this guy do? Is this guy for real?
You know, it was strange to me. Now, I get the part of him taking a shot, right? Taking a shot at Texas, taking a shot at OU for leaving, right? We're glad we got rid of them, blah, blah, blah. But the part where he says to, Joey McGuire, make sure you take care of business. That's an open bias, and it's not cool.
It's an open bias. It's not cool. And, the Twitter backlash has kind of been what we're saying here. And then you're getting fans like, well, this is Oklahoma and Texas' fault for secretly being in secret negotiations. Dude, this has been going on for 3 years. Like, stop.
Exactly. Seriously, grow up, guys.
Yeah, stop with the secret negotiations and all that. It wasn't too secret because it got announced well before anything was even voted on. So this whole thing, but it's just weird. I got to tell you, and this has been talked about, so we're not breaking any new ground here. However, it has to be said on this podcast, both for Oklahoma fans and Texas fans, after what we witnessed in officiating last year, to hear those statements from the commissioner of your league and couple that with the officiating statistics that existed last year, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's shocking, honestly. And the thing, man, going into this season, we're going to get absolutely no love from the referees. We almost have to be perfect out there to win some of these close games that we'll both be in.
I guess I didn't realize that Oklahoma led the league last year in tackles for loss. Those were all on first and second down, because on third down that never occurred, just for the record. But at the same time, we led the league in tackles for loss. It just further reinforces the fact that we got hosed by officials when we still only received 1 holding call against.
Yeah. Texas led the nation in quarterback hurries last year.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable.
I think you guys had 1, or was it no holding calls against you?
1 holding call, and I think y'all had 1, correct?
Yeah, the entire season.
It's just, it doesn't make any sense. So anyway, that had to be said because that guy's listen, he took his shots at the Big 12 Media Day, and that was fine. we're getting a little too close to the season for this adult to act like this.
Correct. And I get how you want to hype up the fan bases of the schools that are still in your league. But to say, to basically say, we'll be cheering for you. I mean, what's he telling the refs, right? What are we supposed to think?
I don't know. It's weak. The Big 12, listen, I can't be happier that we're going to the SEC. There's a reason we were going to the SEC. Now, hey, has this guy done a great job of resuscitating the Big 12 and keeping it relevant?
No question.
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. But it's like, come on, man. You wouldn't even be in this position if we didn't leave, right?
Correct.
If we didn't leave, they were content to let this be a 10-team league, and it continue to be a second-rate conference,
Absolutely.
And so the only reason they've made this momentum and are now in a position to continue to be a Power 5 or Power 4 conference or whatever it's going to eventually be called is because Oklahoma and Texas left.
Exactly. You're welcome, Big 12.
Yeah, the whole thing. They're a joke. All right. Listen, we're jumping right into this. This is the season preview. I want to start kind of, here's the hierarchy of how I want to break this season preview down, Kevin, at least on the Oklahoma side. And then you'll feel free to do it when you do it on Texas. But I want to talk about the coaches. I'm going to start with the coaches, and then I'm going to talk position groups, and then break it down finally into players that kind of I'm keeping an eye on. Does that make sense? So we're starting big picture, then we'll break it down into units, and then we'll take it in. Because that's kind of how I see the need for this season to kind of progress is we got to have the whole pieces working together. Starting at the top is Brent Venables. The only thing we can say about Brent Venables at this point is 6-7. It was disappointing last year. And it's frustrating. And the excuses have been made in terms of number of players that were lost and all of these things. But I was very clear on this podcast all year last year, and I'm going to be equally as clear, if not more so this year. Those are excuses. We're the University of Oklahoma. We are playing in the Big 12, and we have zero reason to go 6-7. We shouldn't have gone 6-7 last year. I'm thinking specifically of a West Virginia game, a Baylor game, a K-State game where we had them on 3rd and 18. There were a number of games that should have never even made it into a position that was that it was even in question. So when I start at the top, I'm saying we have to improve from 6-7 because we're the University of Oklahoma, and because of the last conversation we just had, we're going in the SEC. If we exit the Big 12 with another crappy record like 6-7, we're setting ourselves up for abject failure in the SEC.
Correct. You definitely want to go with positive momentum going into a new league. And the biggest concern about that, too, is if you have 2 losing seasons in a row or 2 seasons where you don't get close to your expectations, then the recruits are going to start looking around. You definitely don't want to go into the SEC with a poor recruiting class or even an average recruiting class. You need another top 5, top 10 class.
No, to your point, the honeymoon is going to wear off very quickly with recruits if it hasn't already. And so it's vital and we're going to talk about this with Texas here coming up. It's vital for both of these schools to perform very, 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 very well. You need to have the biggest tailwind you can get out of this season. Okay. 6-7, Coach V, not acceptable. Okay. So we're going to talk about what he's put in place, the players and the moves he's made to escape from that doldrum and to enter into a place that we're more accustomed to at OU. To get there, he's got Ted Roof. When I think about the defense, Kevin, I think about the fourth quarter. We got outworked, outlasted in the fourth quarter. Whether it was conditioning or simply the number of players that we had that we could plug in at spots, that's where we lost our games by and large. We were in the lead at Kansas State. We were in the lead against West Virginia. We were in the lead against Baylor in the fourth quarter. And there's a couple of other games. The defense let us down in the fourth quarter. Okay. So what Roof's had to do is via the transfer portal and via recruiting, he's had to build up what they're calling competitive depth. I think they've done it. But this is what this is what we have to see.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, you had talent, right? It's not like you had a bunch of, bad players out there, but the depth just wasn't there. And look, when you get into these games against Big 12 offenses, eventually you're going to wear out. If you got the same guy, if you got defensive linemen playing 80 snaps a game on defense, they're just not going to last the 4 quarters.
The other coordinator, Jeff Lebby, I think we need to see more consistency from the offense and more of the consistency from games like the Kansas game, which was a very efficient offensive game. First quarter of Oklahoma State, what we saw against Nebraska. We need consistency at that level, right? Because there were plenty of games where we would go 2 or 3 quarters. I'm thinking about Oklahoma State in particular. We have an amazing first quarter, and we did nothing the rest of the game.
That was so interesting. That first quarter script that he designed was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it was some of the best play calling I saw all season in college football. It was incredible.
People were running wide open. Plays were being made. The energy level was high. The pace was high. We heard so much about Jeff Lebby and the pace and how we're going to move. Now, did we have to slow it down? That kind of that chicken egg set situation. Did we have to slow it down because we didn't have the competitive depth on the defensive side of the ball? Maybe, I guess. But against Oklahoma State, man, it was like pace. And we just caught them and blitzed them and just kept going. And then we went dead, like just brain dead,
pretty
terrible. Yeah, it was very odd. So we know it's there, right? We've seen evidence. It's almost, I'll use it. It's almost like the Quinn Ewers analogy that I keep coming back to with you, and I kind of give you a hard time. We saw what the first quarter against Bama looks like. Like, we know what can be done.
What it can be, yeah.
Yeah, and so we have to see that from Lebby, and we have to see it from the offensive group. Specific coaches I want to call out, just on the offensive side mostly, is DeMarco Murray. I think he takes a leap this year. I think we see him put himself in a position of being maybe one of the best position coaches in the country. Okay. If Sawchuk and Barnes can deliver the way I think they're going to deliver, and he can get I had the guy's name, but I didn't write it down. If you get Marcus Major and the other running back, the other freshman, you might know him.
Hicks?
Yes, Caleb Hicks. If he can get some surprise contribution out of those guys, plus what we're expecting to get out of those guys, the big guys, Sawchuk and Barnes, I am excited to see this running back room. I'm so excited. I have busted out my game day hat just for this podcast, just to emphasize how important I think the running game is going to be.
And I imagine that Brent Venables has sat down with Lebby and said, "Hey, listen, man, we gotta run it, and we gotta run it, and then you start lulling in the safeties, start bringing them closer to the box, then you take the play action and hit the deep shot. That's what the offense is."
Well, and there's nothing that says you can't keep the pace while running the ball.
Correct.
Running the ball, yeah, run it.
Texas ran that offense in 2016 with Sterling Gilbert as their offensive coordinator, Charlie Strong's last year. Nobody remembers because Texas was so bad, but a 2,000-yard rusher with Deontay Foreman.
Yeah.
Running that exact same offense. So
on a bad team.
What can be done.
On a bad team.
Really bad team. Horrible team. 6-17. So, yeah, stick with the run. Good things will happen.
Also, Emmett Jones, real quick, the wide receiver coach. He's done an awesome job recruiting. A lot of energy around Emmett Jones. Let's see if the development's there. All right? We know that's an area. We've talked about this ad nauseum on this offseason. That's an area of weakness for Oklahoma. We think Farouk is the number one. We're not 100% sure. We think Drake Stoops is going to play in the slot. We think Freeman's going to see some minutes. Who's going to emerge on the other side of him with Andrell Anthony, Brennan Thompson, Jaden Gibson, Nick Anderson. I mean, the list goes on and on. Is Emmett Jones going to deliver the development? That's the key to me. Are we seeing those guys get better every week? Because I didn't see development last year. I did not see development last year with Marvin Mims.
Yeah, he was just the same guy that he was the year before, right? He never seemed maybe happy with the new. I don't think he. And again, I haven't talked to the kid or heard anything, but it just seemed by his body language, right, that he didn't love the offense that you guys had last year.
I don't think he liked dropping the ball.
I'm sure he didn't. I just wonder, think about this, from a human standpoint, right? I mean, we all have
these aren't humans. These aren't humans, Kevin. These are robots. These are robots we cheered for. They don't have personal lives. They don't have moms or dads or girlfriends or brothers or sisters. They don't feel any emotions at all. These are people that we just use for our own personal pleasures of watching football.
That is true to a point, right? But think about it.
No, you're right.
We have a job, right?
100%.
All of a sudden, the entire management staff changes, right? You might be like, well, I kind of like the other manager better than this one. This is what it is, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what happened with him. Now, he's still balled out, right? He was still far and away your best receiver. But, if the other staff, if he was playing in the same system he was before, he probably would have had a better season than he did last year. As good as he was.
Right. And keep in mind, at the beginning of the year, in August, this time last year, we had just lost Cale Gundy, and they had to replace him with his first ever Division I coaching job. I even forget who they replaced him with.
Yeah.
So Emmett Jones is now in there. He's a legitimate wide receiver coach. Been in the room. Been working with these guys since the spring. Let's see it. Last thing on the coaches. Oklahoma knows how important this coach is. This is the season it's supposed to pay dividends, and it's Jerry Schmidt, strength and conditioning coach.
Okay.
Everything we talked about, fourth quarter, consistency, running the ball, all of that, it's going to come down to did we get bigger, faster, and stronger? Right? And the thought is that we will under Jerry Schmidt. The reality is last year we did not. Now, did he have enough time with them? I don't know. He started in January, so he had a whole year with them. But this is the second year in Jerry Schmidt's program. We know what he's been able to do in the past with Oklahoma. We saw what he did with some of A&M's, some of their better teams and some of their better players. They always looked like just studs. Let's see what we get out of our guys in terms of a physicality. And can Oklahoma capitalize on being the first or second most talented team in the league?
Yeah. I think when you get a new staff in, and it starts with the strength coach, right? It just takes a while to understand what this person wants, the whole flow of everything, right? It just doesn't happen overnight. Use Texas as an example, right? It just didn't look right the first year. It got better the second year. You can just see the improvements. Guys just weren't thinking about what to do as much. Now they're just reacting. So the opportunity is there for OU from a conditioning standpoint. Just make sure that you can finish these games and close these games out.
All right. Switching to kind of moving down the position group, starting on the offensive side of the ball. I think Gabriel, I don't think he has to just have a Caleb Williams 2022 season in order for OU to make it to the Big 12 championship game. I think he needs to be as good as he was and just a little better. Okay?
No.
Just a little better.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting with him, right? Because I thought he had a good season. The problem for him is the expectation that is there because of the run of quarterbacks that you guys have had since Baker Mayfield got there. We just haven't seen anything like this really in the history of college football, right? Nobody's ever had a number one pick, followed by a number one pick, followed by a second round pick with back-to-back quarterbacks.
3 Heisman Trophy winners have started for Oklahoma in the last 6 years.
Yeah,
and Jalen Hurts finished second.
Exactly. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Caleb Williams won the Heisman, right? This is what we're comparing people to.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my notes. Right? I'm just going to read what I have. And you tell me if I'm off base. And some of this stuff can't be measured, right? But he just needs to be that guy. He needs to make the plays on third down and in the fourth quarter that allow us to put games away. His skill level is sufficient. He's demonstrated that. But for OU to succeed at OU, we need him to have that indefinable quality that converts good to great. I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know what makes a quarterback make that leap. Now, the only problem with Dylan Gabriel is he is what he is in most cases. I mean, this kid, this is his 5th year, right, playing college football.
Correct.
I think he's incredibly solid. I like that he's our quarterback. He's not going to make any big mistakes. But in order for us to just really succeed, he just has to play a little better. A little better.
Yeah, I think he's a great quarterback, right? I just don't know if he's that dude that you're used to, Baker Mayfield, that can say, get on my back, guys. I will take us to where we need to be. Or Kyler Murray, who's...
Oh, I agree. Or even Jalen Hurts, for that matter. Like what
Jalen Hurts
exactly.
What
Jalen Hurts did against Baylor.
You put a good team around him, everybody else has to be better.
Okay.
Because if you look at his numbers are so consistent for every year that he's been a starter. Always around between 3,000 and 3,600 passing yards, between 25 and 32 touchdowns, and between 7 or so interceptions.
Right.
It's incredibly consistent.
It's consistently good. Like maybe even very good. Like consistently very good. He's like Kirk Cousins, to use an NFL, or Derek Carr. Like good. He's going to always be a starter, right? He's always going to be a starter in the league. But is that going to be enough? Okay, so on the offensive side of the ball, I don't know that a lot of me thinks that DG is who DG is, and that's probably going to be okay. He needs to make a couple more plays. For me, see the hat. For me, it's going to start and end in the running back room. Okay? My prediction is that Sawchuk and Javonte Barnes each have plus 900 yards rushing.
Okay. All right.
They
so
each have
almost two 1,000-yard rushers.
I think that might be a bit much in terms of prediction. So I don't want to. I mean, I'm probably crazy with 2 900-yard rushers, but I think if we can get that sort of production from those two guys, then Gabriel just has to be. It gives him the opportunity to just be a little better, just a little better. I think we can get it out. I think we can get it out of those guys. And I'm excited to see. I think the talent is abundant at the running back position.
Yeah, you got a really good room there. And, I like Sawchuk. I think he's explosive. He's someone who can, break a tackle, make a guy miss, and take it to the house. And then Barnes is a bowling ball type. He showed in that bowl game. What did he have? Look, his average wasn't great, right? But didn't he have close to 30 carries in that game?
He did. Yep, he did. And they were bruising, punishing carries against a very big, talented defense.
Yeah. Eventually, especially against a lot of the teams in the Big 12, you'll wear them down. Most teams don't have the depth to take that for an entire 4 quarters.
Well, so the other guy I was thinking of, by the way, was Tawi Walker. That was the other guy out of North Las Vegas. So we might see some out of Tawi Walker. We might see some out of oh gosh, you just said his name and now
Caleb
Hicks again. But there's still discussion, like maybe Marcus Major is going to give it to us. I am going to hold off on any Marcus Major hype, but I will say if he's able to contribute like in the 4th quarter, if we can, the thing was he was never able to do any of that in the 4th. We never had the lead in the 4th quarter, right? We never had that 4th quarterback that brought a game home because we were never in a position to do that, right? So if we can see the lead in a couple of these games, I think Marcus Major could contribute that. I'm not counting on it. I'm not writing it in. My money is on Sawchuk and Barnes, and I'm very, very excited about him. Lastly, on offense, wide receiver, you've been asking me this all year. Who emerges as number 1? I think it'll be Farouk. I think Farouk will be our clear number 1. I don't think that's making any large leaps or anything. The question, I think, though, is who breaks out to provide unexpected production. And I think it's going to be, from everything I'm hearing, I'm landing on Nick Anderson. I think it's Nick Anderson.
Okay.
He's that size. We talked about it last episode. He's the size that we're looking for. He's got the big body, physical body, 6'4". I think he's our guy. And then you've got Stoops and Gavin Freeman.
Andrew Anthony. Okay.
And then you've got Andrew Anthony and Brennan Thompson who can just flat out burn. So we'll see how they go. But as far as who's that other big receiver, I think it's going to be Nick Anderson. But we will have to wait and see because I think that I don't know that he's nailed it yet.
Now, real quick, what do you think about the offensive line?
I don't know enough about. I don't even want to pretend to know enough about it to break it all down. I am going to go with the fact that I've seen Bill Bedenbaugh do this year after year.
Yeah,
and we always have a good offensive line.
Yeah, I think your offensive line would be good this year. I actually think you lose two really good players, right, at tackle.
Yeah,
Wanye Morris is a good player, got drafted, and obviously Anton Harrison was a first-round pick.
Right.
So you lose a great tackle, but I feel like, Guyton, is he ready to step up? I'm curious to see what happens there. You got a transfer of Walter Rouse from Stanford.
He's a huge,
talented guy.
And
correct.
Huge.
So if you can get good play out of the offensive line, it's more consistent play. I know you guys like the Jacob Sexton kid a lot. I know he's coming off the injury, though, in the bowl game, right? He got injured in the bowl game.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if he'll be back or when he'll be back, but he's someone you definitely need for depth because he's a talented player.
I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but with Bill Bedenbaugh as the coach, they just rarely is the offensive line our issue.
It was massive for Venables to keep him because I know how much Lincoln wanted him at USC. It seemed like for a second there that he had accepted the job out there, right?
I think there was some back and forth for sure, but I'm glad he stayed, man. He's a stud.
Huge win for OU and for Venables to keep him.
And I think that I have to think this offense fits his eye better than what Lincoln runs. I mean, obviously Lincoln puts up a lot of points, but just in terms of a physical offense.
I don't know. I mean, he had some great offensive lines with Lincoln Riley's offense. I mean, 2-time Joe Moore Award winner offensive line. I mean, guys who are still in the NFL today. Really good lines, man.
No, listen, dude. That's what I mean. That's what I'm not worried about. The last thing is tight end. I don't want to beat this one up. It's depth. Stogner, I think, is going to be a stud in terms of receiving. We don't have that Braden Willis guy. We don't have that what's the fullback?
The H-back type.
The H-back type position. So that's going to be, but correct me if I'm wrong, in a Levy/Bryles offense, that H-back wasn't necessarily a really prominent figure. Right?
No, you just need a tight end. But I want to see because Stogner, we know what he's capable of. I remember him having that big touchdown in one of the overtimes against Texas in the Red River Shootout in 2020, right?
Yeah.
And it was one, Ryder put it up high for him, and he went up and got it. He used that big 6'6" frame of his. And we know he's going to be good at that. I'm just curious how consistent he can be as a receiver if he's going to be a main target. We haven't seen that out of him yet so far when he was at OU and then the 1 year he was at South Carolina last year.
I gotta tell you, you talked about it with Marvin Mims. Is he 100% bought in with where he's at? I think in the case of Austin Stogner, you don't come back to Oklahoma if you're not bought in.
Oh yeah, absolutely, right. I mean, he could have gone somewhere else or just stayed in South Carolina.
Yeah, I think this kid is bought in, and I think he's going to have a good year. You have Caden Helms and McIntyre are behind him. We've got to. They're just unknowns. We don't know where they're at or what their performance level is going to be. One of those guys will probably end up being pretty good. The other one maybe not so much. Switching over to the defense, the one I've obviously been the most excited about is our DBs. We talked about that extensively, so I don't want to beat that up for anybody that listened last week. But Bowman's your guaranteed day one starter. The question is who starts with him at safety. I think it's Bowen and Pearson.
Reggie Pearson, the Texas Tech transfer, right?
But then when do you put McCullough on the field, right? So does McCullough move into a linebacker spot? So I don't know. I want to see McCullough on the field and I want to see Pearson on the field at the same time. So I'm not quite sure how that works. And I also want Bowen on the field. So I don't know what kind of chess they're going to play. I think it's just really exciting they have options. On the corners, we know it's Woody Washington. From what I've heard, it's Gentry Williams on the other side.
Okay.
Have you heard anything different?
I have not. I have not.
That's
You know
what I
what?
heard.
I actually want to talk about Billy Bowman. I think he's great. You know, former Texas commit. Would have loved to see him in burnt orange, man. I mean, he is a dynamic athlete back there, and I think he's great coverage. That play he made against Oklahoma State in the end zone, picking off Spencer Sanders, that was a big time play. I mean, he's on the pretty much on the opposite hash when the ball is thrown, and he got there and made that play. It wasn't a great throw, but still, I mean, that is an incredible play. So you got him and Peyton Bowen. I mean, 5-star safety, one of not the best safety recruit in the country last year. He's shown it already. I've seen clips of him in practice and then in your spring game making that play, tracking the ball down like an elite wide receiver would.
Yeah.
So that's a huge pickup, man. And even if he doesn't start, you can't keep that kind of talent off the field. So, yeah, I mean, I think the OU secondary is looking for a big improvement just with the talent alone.
Dude, the people that we're leaving off, Harrington, people love Harrington right now, especially in the cheetah role. Like, they're all over him. Key Lawrence is the last year starter, and I don't think he starts. Now, I could be wrong. He could end up starting for Bowen because Bowen's a true freshman. So we'll see.
It's a matter of time, though, man.
I think it's a matter of time. I think Bowen is gonna take that position from him eventually. Linebackers, it's the same kind of story. You got Stutzman in the middle, and it's who sets beside him. Kanik, probably. Kobe McKenzie. Does Dason McCullough come down in there? So it's going to be interesting to see. But Stutzman's the one we can count on. This is his third year, second year in the system. He's only gotten better, right? It's kind of like what you talked about with Texas is just overall performance. They get better every year. He's gotten better the last 2 years. If he can get even better, we're going to be just fine at linebacker. Just fine.
Yeah, I thought he was really good last year, right? I know OU fans are really frustrated with the defense, and rightfully so, but I thought he was good. I thought he was pretty consistent. I think the issue for Venables with his linebackers is, he requires strict discipline at that position. He is concerned about these fast guys overrunning plays, leaving huge gaps, not filling the run properly. That's where a lot of those big plays came in. Trust me, I saw it with Texas, especially in Sark's first year. New defense, guys are just running, that gets out of position and just leaves huge space for running backs, and then same thing in coverage. I think that may have been the issue. That's probably why we didn't see much of Jared Kanik after the Nebraska game. I think even though he showed he can make some plays, I think he might have just not known where he's supposed to be all the time. And I think the thought of that just drives Venables insane.
Yes, you're right. And the one thing you keep hearing is that it's a difficult defense to pick up. It's a difficult defense to pick up. We've got to be past that now, though, right? I mean, we're 2 years in.
You would hope so, man. That's the question, right?
If at this point, and I said this a little last year too, but if at this point it's still in quotation marks a difficult defense, maybe we need to dumb it down.
Might have to simplify a couple things.
And let these boys go play some football, because Stutzman he's a stud. He's really, really good, and I'm really excited to watch him play. D-line, dude, there are a lot of names here that I think are going to be really impactful on the defensive line. The biggest one for me is Rondell Bothroyd, the transfer out of Wake Forest. I think he's the game changer on this defensive line in terms of bringing a physicality and changing the dynamics along the line. So I'm looking for big things from Bothroyd. And then R. Mason Thomas is a fan favorite. He's highly talked about. That dude's supposed to be there for us. And then you can't overlook Adibare. I mean, Adibare, I think he's like Bowen in the sense that he might not start game one, but I have a sense that by conference play, if he's not starting, he's getting the bulk of snaps. That's just my guess.
He doesn't have to start a game to make an impact, right? We talked about the defense being a little complicated. Listen, if it's third and long, put that kid on the field and say, hey, go get the quarterback. Go run around the tackle and get the quarterback. Chase the quarterback. Don't need to complicate things when you have an athlete like that playing on the edge, right? He's a 5-star for a reason. Put him out there. Let him chase the quarterback. They don't have to start.
All right. So that's my breakdown positionally.
Real quick.
So go ahead.
Yeah. I do want to see how the interior defensive line shapes up for OU this year. I thought that was probably your biggest issue last year, is being able to stop the run on the interior of that defense.
I like Isaiah Coe. I liked him last year. I like Jordan Kelly last year. Those are your two main guys. Plus you got Gilliam Jr. and Grayson Halton, right? So those are your four core dudes right now in the interior of the line.
You brought in a lot of guys from JUCO and transfer guys, right? So you brought in bodies. We just got to see who can really play at this level. I'm not talking about the kid from Wake Forest at all, right?
I think that dude can play at this level.
Correct. Yeah. Right. We've seen that playing in the ACC. The Big 12 is not going to be too much difference. But some of the other guys who came from smaller schools, those are the question marks that I think you guys are going to have inside. But
the thing is, where I think our coaches are correct, is there's way more depth than there was last year.
Absolutely.
When I was writing down defensive linemen for you to quiz me on, I just could keep writing names. Grimes, Mason Thomas, Stripling, Atabari, Ethan Downs, Gilliam Jr., Halton, Bothroyd, Kelly, Coe. Like, I just kept writing names down. Last year, I had like 3, and it's these 3 dudes, and that's what we're running with. You know what I mean? So I think it's a positive thing. Preseason awards, or who I think is going to be the preseason winners, the offensive MVP, I think is going to be Gavin Sawchuk. I hate to put that much pressure on a redshirt freshman running back, the whole weight of but it's not all on him. But I think if he has the kind of year I think he can have, it means the offense had a very good year. If he can rush for 1,000+ yards, I think it means the rest of the offense did a really good job as well. So I've got him as offensive MVP. Defensive MVP is my boy Billy Bowman. Like, the guy's too talented. You could make an argument for Stutzman in this position. I'd be just fine with that. But I think it's Billy Bowman. You could probably also make an argument for Woody Washington. We haven't talked enough about him, but I just think it's Billy Bowman. I just like what he brings to the table. I like his competitiveness. I like the plays he makes on the ball. I like the toughness with he tackles with. I just think he's a fantastic player, and he's now 3 years into playing college ball, 2 years in the system. Seems to be healthy. Jada Coleman's coming off a fantastic softball season, so he has everything in the world going for him to have just a dynamic year at safety.
Yeah, I mean, you heard what I had to say about him just a few minutes ago. I don't think I need to say anything else.
And then the last one we talked about, kind of coming up with like a dark horse player that's off the radar that might have an impact. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. This is a shout out for one of the soccer dads who is good friends with this guy, Jacoby Johnson. He's out of Mustang. He was not there for spring ball because he played basketball in high school. He was a stud at Mustang. He's a big physical kid. He could play both sides of the ball. It looks like they've got him on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know that that's a for sure thing from everything I've heard about him. He could play either side. I think if there's some injuries early, you might get a chance to look at Jacoby Johnson, and I feel like he could probably step in, corner, safety, wherever, and make an impact. I think he's that kind of player. That's my dark horse, off the radar player.
He's a dynamic athlete, right? And he could have gone to a lot of schools around the country. So it's good that you kept him home. I always say this about talented freshmen, right? Look for them on special teams, right? Look at them on punt block, chasing down kickoffs. If they come in and they can make an impact on that, that's a guy who's going to be a future player.
Absolutely. All right, dude. Are we ready to pick? Are we ready to make our season picks for Oklahoma?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Okay. The first 3 games are not. I don't even want to break them down. We're going to break down Arkansas
Let's
State.
talk about them quickly.
All right, I know. I'm so jealous of your non-conference schedule that when I look at ours, I'm just all butthurt. But anyway, Arkansas.
Listen, I'm not trying to defend y'all, right? I'm not one to defend the Sooners. You did have Georgia scheduled and had to cancel because of the new conference. So it's not like you just went out and said, hey, we're just going to schedule the weakest non-conference schedule in the conference, for a good school. You had Georgia. You had to cancel it.
But it sure feels that way, dude. It just feels icky. It feels icky.
I get it, man.
Not having another Power 5 game, especially with a Big 12 conference. I don't know. It just feels weird. Arkansas State, we'll preview them next week. Win.
Absolutely.
Win for Oklahoma.
Win.
Yeah, win.
Win.
SMU, we'll see Chandler Morris. Listen, this is going to be SMU and Tulsa are going to be better tests, especially for the defense. We talked about them both having offensive coaches. Remind me of the SMU coach. I'm drawing a blank.
Is it what's his name? Is it Lashley?
Oh man.
Yeah, Rhett Lashley is the head coach. He was their offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
before.
He's going to be pretty good. Chandler Morris is a fun.
Well, it's not
dynamic.
Chandler Morris.
Who's their quarterback now?
Chandler Morris is actually at TCU.
Oh, what? Okay, who's at SMU?
Okay, they've got a kid. I believe their quarterback is going to be God, what's his name? He was a highly recruited kid, probably one of the highest recruited quarterbacks that they've had. Let me pull up their roster real quick. I just can't think of his name. The kid from the Dallas area, Preston Stone.
Didn't SMU have a former Oklahoma quarterback there?
Yeah, I think you had what's the kid? Is it not more? Yeah, Mordecai. Right, Tanner Mordecai.
Oh, I get. But now is Tanner Mordecai at Wisconsin now?
He's going to be Wisconsin's starting quarterback this year.
Oh, I hate it. See, here's the problem.
Go ahead.
Well, no, you go ahead first.
Preston Stone was a big-time recruit, right? It was very interesting with his recruitment because he was one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the state of Texas coming out of high school. But it was weird because all the big schools started getting commits quickly before he could commit. So he ends up at SMU. So he's a really talented player. They'll be explosive offensively. They also got some big transfers in. You got Kamar Wheaton. Do you remember Kamar Wheaton?
Yeah.
Running back looked like he was going to go to OU and then ended up going to Alabama.
Yep.
Well, he transferred. He's at SMU now. I don't know if the kid's any good, honestly. Right? He's a 5-star running back. So, yeah, he's got some talent. But he's there. They might score some points. The issue with them is I don't see them being able to slow down your offense, at least over 4 quarters. So I still have that as a win for you.
Win. The problem is for podcasters is the transfer portal makes it almost impossible to remember who was there from year to year to year. I never would have guessed Tanner Mordecai was at Wisconsin. Yeah. Not in 100 million years. It's just he's gonna start.
I think he's in line to start. Yeah.
The rumor always was that he had beat Jalen Hurts out, but he got hurt.
That is so interesting, man.
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that one. Tulsa, Kevin Wilson, former offensive coordinator at OU, former head coach of Indiana, and offensive coordinator at Ohio State. It'll be at Tulsa, a road test. Not really. It's in the state of Oklahoma, so it'll still largely be an Oklahoma crowd. I've got us with a win.
Same, man. Same.
Opening up Big 12 play at Cincinnati. Cincinnati will be fired up. They're hosting Oklahoma in a conference game, their first conference game of the year. This is not Luke Fickell's Cincinnati. I'm saying win for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think it'll be a slight test because of the environment. It'll be their first Big 12 game ever, right? Sooners are coming in. Kind of reminds me of something Texas when they played at Central Florida back in 2007. It was their first game in a new stadium. They opened a brand new stadium in Texas. It was the first opponent there. In Texas, the game was a lot closer than it needed to be because the crowd and stuff was so fired up.
I don't know what the score is going to be. I just think it's going to be a win. But yes, it could. Once we start league play, I mean, we saw this last year. I'm happy with getting out of it with a win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I
have it as a win for y'all too.
Okay, as a win. Iowa State. Whatever's happening with them at quarterback has changed the dynamic of that team. Who knows what's going on there? You know, this could be a situation where the kid that comes in behind him is going to be fantastic, right? So who the heck knows? I don't know. But at this point, this is a home opener in Big 12 play. I've got us beating Iowa State.
Yeah, and if this game was in Ames, I might feel a little bit different about it. But with it being in Norman, and again, Hunter Deckers and who knows who else on the team, are they going to play or are they not? It seems like it could be a huge distraction for Iowa State. The game's in Norman. I've got OU winning that.
Okay, that gets us to 5-0 going into Dallas, Texas to face the Texas Longhorns. We haven't picked Texas's record yet. My guess is we might both have Texas at 4-1. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe you pick Alabama to win. Either way, this could be a very big matchup of a game. Here's the problem, Kevin. I can't unsee what I saw last year. I need a new image put in my brain before I can expect Oklahoma to go down and beat Texas in the Cotton Bowl.
Okay. Understandable.
I just can't unsee what I saw. It was the most revolting, disgusting, just horrible feeling and experience of my life. And I hated every second of it, and I can't unsee it. And it pains me to think that I am going to pick us losing to Texas, but I can't pick a win after that. I hope I'm wrong. And for the record, this might change. Before the OU Texas preview, I might pick a different game to win. This is a preseason preview pick. We don't have to stick with this.
This is all based on what we know at this moment.
I'm taking Texas for the win, OU for the loss.
Okay, I agree with that. It doesn't have a ton to do with last year, though. I mean, a little bit.
For me,
it's just the questions that, and again, we all have questions, right? We all have questions, but at key positions, I feel better about Texas than I do about OU right now at this point. So I have Texas winning that one too.
UCF comes to Norman, faces Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel faces his old team. Gus Malzahn's the coach, UCF. So
Gus
you can coach him up.
Coach. Correct.
Oklahoma beats UCF. Win.
I think this is going to be a really good football game, right? Coming off the Texas game, UCF is going to come to Norman. I don't think they're going to be afraid or intimidated by playing in Norman. I just don't know. And I like their quarterback, John Reese Plumlee. I like Malzahn. I mean, I would imagine he's beaten Saban more than anybody else has.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
He got him at least 2 or 3 times while he was the coach at Auburn. I just don't see them having enough depth to hang with you guys for 4 quarters. I think it's a good game, though, but I think OU wins.
At Kansas, Jaden Daniels getting a lot of preseason love, quarterback at Kansas. We did not have to face him last year. We had a very good game last year against Kansas, but it wasn't error-free. This game is in Lawrence. Oklahoma loses on the road at Kansas. I can't believe I just said that.
You know what?
I can't believe I just said that, Kevin.
No, I can't. No, I can't. The crazy thing is, right, Texas lost to Kansas a couple years ago. In that same season, they were one Caleb Williams push or a strip ball from his own teammate on 4th down away from potentially losing to Kansas. We both could have lost to Kansas in the same season. Can you imagine that?
Here's the deal. I think my win total for Oklahoma is accurate. Okay, when we're done, I think my win total is accurate, but I needed to find a loss to match my win total, if that makes sense. So I kind of backed into a loss. And when I look at those last 5 games, this was that loss.
Okay.
Like, it's on the road. It's kind of a trap game before Bedlam. The last Bedlam, whatever the case may be. It's so easy to overlook Kansas because they're Kansas. I don't like where this is at in the schedule. I don't like the returning quarterback. I don't like that it's on the road. And I just don't think we're good enough to avoid a stupid loss. Maybe this will be a stupid loss, or maybe it'll prove to be a pretty good loss. Who knows? I don't know. But I've got Kansas beating Oklahoma. What do you have?
No, I think it's going to be a really tough game. I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game. I think it's going to be a shootout. I actually think you win this one, though. I've got you guys winning at Kansas.
Okay. At Oklahoma State, final Bedlam game for the foreseeable future. Mike Gundy thinks it's all Oklahoma's fault. Oh, they're horrible. Oh, the horror. Oh, my gosh. Gundy, stop. Just stop. Oklahoma beats Oklahoma State for the simple reason that Oklahoma always beats Oklahoma State.
Okay. I actually have you guys losing this game. And here's
not
why.
Happen. That game is that will not. We will not lose that game. We will not lose that game. We might lose every other game on the schedule. We ain't losing that game.
The reason why I think this might be the one where the refs come in to play.
Well, they came into play a couple of years. They came into play a couple of years ago with Caleb when Caleb Williams was at it, and they didn't call a pass interference in the end zone.
Yeah, that was just an insane ending. But I just think Gundy is just going to pull out every stop. Now I don't even know who their quarterback's going to be.
Dude, right? Listen. Look. You're saying things that make sense. Okay? Gundy's going to pull out all the stops. Gundy's going to have a game plan. Gundy's going to be ready to go. He's going to not leave anything in the tank. Gundy has had the opportunity to beat Oklahoma so many times, Kevin. Yeah. So many times.
I just wonder, this is the one time he comes out of that weird shell he seems to come into against Oklahoma.
Absolutely not.
What is his deal against OU a lot of the times?
He puckers.
Why?
Dude, listen. Well, we're in his head. There's just certain situations where you live rent-free in somebody's head. We live rent-free in Mike Gundy's head. It makes him miserable. He knows he's had a good team in the past and lost. Has he got a couple wins against us? Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
This might be my Texas fan PTSD going against that guy.
Well, yeah, it's like he doesn't. But it's like he doesn't care about y'all. But man, he just all puckers up against Oklahoma. He looks like a weirdo. He even looks weird on the sidelines when we're playing against him. Like he's lost or doesn't want to get too excited. Or I just don't get it. I do not get it. We're not losing that game. But you can write yourself down for a loss.
I'm gonna take that one as an L for you guys.
West Virginia. If we lose West Virginia, well, I might quit the podcast. That's a win for Oklahoma.
I agree. I got that as a win for you guys.
At BYU, I can't wait for this. As of right now, I'm traveling for this game, November 18th.
November 18th, Saturday.
As of right now,
probably Saturday night.
Oh God, I'd be so awesome. I'm planning on being there. I've been to a BYU game before. It's a great stadium, great backdrop. BYU fan. I'm hoping BYU's done good to this point. Because I'd love for the stadium to be rocking for an Oklahoma. We need to have that, if nothing else, to get prepared for the SEC. I just don't think BYU has the horses to hang with OU this year. I'm taking Oklahoma.
It's going to be a huge test, right? Like you said, the crowd's going to be insane. It's going to be at night. The weather's going to be horrible. You already know it's going to be windy. It's going to be cold at the very least. That being said, I don't think they have the depth. You guys have just too much of a talent advantage. They don't have Taysom Hill out there to,
yeah.
PTSD,
thank God for all of us.
Texas fan PTSD, but no, you guys beat BYU.
Lastly, preseason number 17 TCU. I don't think they'll be preseason number 7. I don't think they'll be ranked 17th by the time we play them in Norman. I think they're going to suffer some losses. They're turning over like 40% of their roster. And the 40% that's leaving it is really, really, really good. I just don't think this is going to be the same TCU team. I hope I'm right and not going to be proved wrong. But I've got Oklahoma beating TCU at home in the season finale.
I've got TCU winning this one.
So you have us at 9-3.
9-3.
Okay. Now at 10-2, I think we make the Big 12 title game. Okay. That's tended to be 2 losses has tended to get you in the play. Has tended to get you in the. I guess it might be a little different because everybody doesn't play everybody this year, but I still think it's going to be hard for anybody to run the table in the conference. But at 9-3 and all 3 losses coming in conference, you're saying Oklahoma does not make the Big 12 championship. Am I thinking that correctly?
I think there's still a chance you get in. I do, even with 3 losses. I think it's going to be a lot of teams beating up on each other this year.
Dude, I can't wait. Dude, I'm so fired up I'm fired up. Just going through the schedule, it just seems real. Finally getting to do this preview seems real. We're going to take a little break, go get some water, get a drink, clear our throats, and then we're going to start recording Texas. Are you fired up for that?
Man, let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. Hey, we'll talk to you in a second. Boomer.
Hook 'em.